How to build a strong English vocabulary. Welcome to this comprehensive masterclass on the art and science of vocabulary acquisition. Language is, at its very core, the architecture of human thought. Words are the tools with which we paint our realities, share our deepest emotions, negotiate our professional successes, and build lasting relationships with the world around you. When you expand your vocabulary, you are not merely memorizing lists of isolated letters and definitions. You are quite literally expanding the boundaries of your mind, increasing your emotional intelligence, and upgrading your cognitive capacity to express complex concepts with absolute precision. For many people learning English, vocabulary expansion can feel like an uphill battle. It is a common frustration to spend hours memorizing flashcards, only to find that when you sit down to have a real conversation, the words you studied seem to completely vanish from your memory. You might feel trapped using the same basic words over and over again, such as good, bad, happy, or sad, despite knowing that your internal thoughts are far more sophisticated than your spoken language suggests. This deep divide between your passive understanding and your active expression is completely normal. The secret to bridging this gap does not lie in raw, mechanical memorization or punishing your brain with dry dictionaries. Instead, it lies in understanding how the human brain naturally processes, stores, and retrieves language. By transforming your approach from a rigid, academic chore into an organic, scientifically proven system of mental connection, you can build a massive, vibrant English vocabulary that stays with you for the rest of your life. The two worlds of vocabulary, passive versus active. To revolutionize the way you learn new words, we must first explore a fundamental principle of linguistics: the distinction between your passive vocabulary and your active vocabulary. Imagine your brain as a massive, beautifully structured library. Your passive vocabulary represents all the books deep inside the library that you recognize when you see them. When you read an article or listen to a native speaker, and you understand a word like meticulous or anticipate, that word is sitting safely in your passive storage. You know what it means when it is presented to you, but you do not necessarily use it when you speak or write. Your active vocabulary, on the other hand, represents the small, highly curated selection of books sitting directly on your front desk. These are the words that you can summon instantly, effortlessly, and without hesitation during a fast-paced conversation or a stressful business meeting. For almost every speaker on earth, including native speakers, the passive library is significantly larger than the active desk. The mistake most language learners make is treating all new words as if they belong immediately on the active desk. When you discover an advanced, rare word, you might force yourself to try to use it the very next day. If you struggle to do so, you feel discouraged. A more natural, efficient approach is to view vocabulary acquisition as a gentle, two-step journey. Your primary goal when encountering a new word is simply to move it into your passive library, to become familiar with its sound, its spelling, and its general meaning. Once that word is safely inside your library, you can implement targeted exercises to gently pull it forward onto your active desk. This realistic perspective removes immediate pressure, allowing your vocabulary to grow organically and sustainably. The science of context learning. The human brain is an organic pattern recognition machine. It thrives on connections, relationships, and stories, while it absolutely rebels against isolated, meaningless data. This is precisely why memorizing long alphabetical lists of random words from a vocabulary book is one of the least effective methods for long-term retention. When you try to memorize a word completely out of context, you are forcing your brain to store a loose piece of information with no anchor. It is the mental equivalent of throwing a single key into a dark, massive ocean and expecting to find it months later. To build a truly resilient vocabulary, you must embrace context learning. This means that you should never, under any circumstances, study a new word in isolation. Every time you discover an unfamiliar term, you must capture the entire sentence, the environment, and the emotional situation in which it was born. Let us look at a real-life example to illustrate this powerful shift. Imagine you are reading an English story, and you stumble across the word reluctant. If you simply look it up in a dictionary, see the definition unwilling and hesitant, and write it down on a list, your brain will likely forget it within 48 hours. However, if you look at the complete sentence in the book, the little boy was highly reluctant to jump into the cold swimming pool. Holding his mother's hand tightly, everything changes. Now, your brain has a rich visual image to hold on to. It visualizes the shivering boy, the cold water, and the feeling of hesitation. The word reluctant is no longer a dry definition. It is permanently anchored to the emotional reality of a specific scene. Context provides the psychological glue that holds the word firmly in your memory, making it infinitely easier for your brain to locate that word when you need it in the future. To put this concept into immediate practice, let us explore a practical exercise called the Context Anchor Blueprint. The next time you find a new word while reading an article or watching a movie, grab a notebook and create 4 distinct sections for that single word. In the first section, write down the word itself, along with its pronunciation. In the second section, copy the exact sentence where you originally found the word. In the third section, write a brief, simple definition in your own words, using English rather than translating it to your native language. Finally, in the fourth section, create a brand new sentence that connects the word directly to your own personal life, your memories, or your daily work. If the word is cluttered, do not write a sentence about a random person's room. Write a sentence about your own desk. My desk always feels incredibly cluttered at the end of a long Friday afternoon. By bridging the new word directly to your own lived experience, you are transforming it from an abstract linguistic concept into a living, breathing part of your personal reality. Mastering memory with spaced repetition. Even with the power of context, we must confront a brutal biological reality of the human brain, the forgetting curve. In the late 19th century, a pioneering psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus conducted extensive research on human memory and discovered a highly predictable pattern of data loss. He proved that when the human mind learns a piece of new information, it immediately begins to lose that information at a staggering rate. In fact, without deliberate review, you will typically forget more than half of what you learned within 24 hours. However, Ebbinghaus also discovered a powerful antidote to this natural decline: the spacing effect. If you review a piece of information at precisely calculated intervals, the rate of forgetting drastically slows down. Each time you refresh the memory right before it is about to fade completely, you push that information deeper and deeper into your long-term neurological storage. This is the foundation of spaced repetition, a modern memory technique that turns vocabulary learning into a highly predictable mathematical science. To utilize spaced repetition in your daily life, you can design a physical or digital system based on expanding time intervals. Imagine you learn a collection of 5 new English words today. Instead of reviewing those same words every single day for a week, which causes mental fatigue and diminished returns, you should space out your reviews across strategically expanding windows. Review the new words for the first time exactly 24 hours after encountering them. If your brain recalls them successfully, wait 3 days before reviewing them a second time. If they are still clear in your mind, expand the window to 7 days, then to 2 weeks, then to 1 month, and finally to 3 months. If at any point during this journey you fail to recall a word, the cycle resets, and you bring that word back to the daily review pile. This targeted system ensures that you never waste time reviewing words that are already permanently locked in your long-term memory, while simultaneously ensuring that weak words are rescued right before they slip into oblivion. A brilliant, hands-on exercise to implement this without complex software is the box system, often referred to as the Leitner system. Acquire a small container and divide it into 5 distinct compartments, labeled Box 1 through Box 5. Place all your newly discovered vocabulary words, written on small paper cards with the context sentence on the back, into Box 1. Every single day, review the cards in Box 1. If you remember a word instantly, promote that card up to Box 2. You will only review Box 2 every 3 days. If you successfully recall the words in box 2, promote them to box 3, which you review once a week. Words that graduate to box 4 are reviewed every 2 weeks, and words in box 5 are reviewed once a month. However, here is the strict rule of the game. The very moment you forget a word, regardless of whether it is sitting proudly in box 4 or box 5, that card is immediately demoted all the way back to box 1. This physical game creates an incredibly engaging feedback loop, gamifying your vocabulary growth while honoring the natural, biological rhythms of your human memory. Decoding the blueprint of English, roots, prefixes, and suffixes. As your vocabulary begins to grow, you will quickly realize that trying to memorize every single English word individually is a monumental task. The English dictionary contains hundreds of thousands of words, and trying to master them one by one can feel like trying to empty an entire ocean with a small teaspoon. Fortunately, English features a beautiful hidden structural blueprint that, once decoded, allows you to unlock the meaning of thousands of words simultaneously. This blueprint is built upon morphemes, roots, prefixes, and suffixes. Think of word roots as the genetic code of the language. A single root word, often originating from ancient Latin or Greek, carries a core, fundamental meaning. When you learn that single root, you instantly possess a master key that can unlock dozens of different words containing that exact structural DNA. Let us look at a highly practical, real-world example. Consider the Latin root spect, which literally means to look at or to watch. Once you know this single root, an entire family of words suddenly becomes crystal clear. The word spectator is a person who watches an event or a game. An inspector is someone who looks deeply inside a system to find errors or ensure safety. To retrospect means to look backward into the past, while to inspect means to look inward at your own thoughts and emotions. A spectacle is something incredible or dramatic to look at, and if a plan is spectacular, it is well worth watching. By shifting your focus from individual words to overarching word families, you are no longer memorizing random letters. You are recognizing a familiar face across a massive crowd of vocabulary. To accelerate this structural mastery, you must also familiarize yourself with common prefixes and suffixes. A prefix is a small cluster of letters attached to the very beginning of a word that alters its direction or meaning. For example, adding the prefix mal, which means bad or evil, instantly transforms the tone of a word. Malfunction means to operate badly, malnutrition means poor or bad nutrition, and malevolent describes an individual wishing bad things upon others. A suffix, conversely, is attached to the very end of a word and typically dictates its grammatical function. Adding the suffix "-ifi transforms a word into a verb, meaning to make or to become. Therefore, clarify means to make clear, purify means to make pure, and terrify means to make someone feel terror. Let us practice an educational exercise called the word tree exploration. Choose a common root word each week, such as tract, to pull, dict, to speak, or port, to carry. Draw a simple tree diagram in your notebook, placing the root firmly at the base of the trunk. On the branching limbs of the tree, write down every single English word you can find that shares that identical root, using colorful pens to highlight how different prefixes and suffixes alter the word's trajectory. This visual exercise expands your vocabulary exponentially, transforming you from a passive memorizer into a linguistic detective who can accurately guess the meaning of unfamiliar words upon first sight. The art of active activation. Now that we have fortified your passive library with context, spaced repetition, and root analysis, we must address the ultimate challenge, pulling those words forward onto your active desk so you can speak and write them with absolute confidence. Moving a word from passive recognition to active production requires a conscious psychological push. It demands that you move past comfort and intentionally force your brain to assemble sentences using your newly acquired tools. A highly effective, low-stress method to accomplish this is the target word challenge. When you sit down to write an essay, prepare a professional email, or engage in a casual English conversation, select exactly 3 specific vocabulary words from your review pile that you want to activate. Write these 3 target words down on a bright sticky note and place it directly next to your computer screen or on your desk. During the conversation or writing session, make it your primary mission to naturally integrate those 3 words into your sentences. Do not force them awkwardly into contexts where they do not belong. Instead, look for creative ways to steer the topic toward a space where your target words can shine. For instance, if your target word is versatile and you are discussing your daily tasks at work, you might say, "I really enjoy my current role because the projects are highly versatile, allowing me to practice different skills." The very moment you physically articulate a new word to communicate a real idea to another human being, a profound cognitive shift occurs. Your brain recognizes that the word is highly useful for survival and connection, instantly reinforcing the neural pathway and ensuring that the word remains on your active desk for future use. Another exceptional exercise for vocabulary activation is the synonym expansion workout. Choose a basic, overused English word that you find yourself repeating constantly, such as the word important. Write this word in the center of a clean piece of paper. Now, challenge yourself to brainstorm and research 5 advanced, nuanced alternatives that carry a far more precise meaning. You might find essential, absolutely necessary for survival, crucial, vital for a successful outcome, paramount, above all other considerations, trivial, the exact opposite of little importance, or consequential, having significant long-term effects. Once you have your 5 alternatives, write 5 distinct sentences, ensuring that each sentence utilizes the unique nuance of the new word perfectly. By consciously breaking your reliance on basic vocabulary, you give your spoken English a rich, sophisticated texture that commands attention and respect in any professional or academic setting. Daily habits for lifelong vocabulary. Growth. Building a powerful vocabulary is not a short-term destination with a definitive end date. It is a lifelong lifestyle of curiosity, exploration, and mindful daily habits. The individuals who possess the most expansive, articulate vocabularies are not necessarily smarter than anyone else. They have simply integrated specific low-friction habits into their daily routines that turn the entire world into an interactive language classroom. Let us look at a collection of these essential daily routines that you can seamlessly weave into your existing life. The power of monolingual immersion. The first daily habit for lasting retention is shifting completely to a monolingual dictionary environment. When many language learners encounter a new English word, their immediate instinct is to look it up in a bilingual dictionary that translates the word directly into their native tongue. While this provides a fast, temporary answer, it severely cripples your long-term fluency. Translating keeps your brain tethered to your native language, forcing you to go through a clumsy middle step every time you want to understand or express an idea. To break this limitation, adopt the non-negotiable habit of using an English-to-English learner's dictionary. When you look up a word like frugal, a monolingual dictionary will define it using simple, clear English. Careful to use money or food in a wise way, avoiding waste. Reading this definition forces your brain to remain entirely within the English ecosystem. You are using simple English words that you already know to capture the meaning of a new, advanced word. This continuous exercise reinforces your existing vocabulary, prevents mental fatigue from constant language switching, and trains you to think directly in English, which is the ultimate hallmark of a truly fluent speaker. Conscious media consuming. We spend a massive portion of our daily lives consuming media, watching videos, listening to music, skimming articles, and reading books. However, the vast majority of this consumption is completely passive. We let the waves of sound and images wash over us, capturing the general plot while letting hundreds of valuable vocabulary opportunities slip completely past us. Transform your daily media consumption into an active treasure hunt by establishing the Golden 3 habit. Every single day, whether you are watching an English movie, listening to an educational podcast, or reading an online article, promise yourself that you will stop and capture exactly 3 new words. Not 1, not 10, just 3. When you hear an unfamiliar term, pause the video or audio immediately. Write down the word along with its surrounding context and look up its definition in your monolingual dictionary. By limiting your daily goal to just 3 words, you prevent information overload and eliminate the feelings of frustration that cause people to abandon their studies. 3 words a day might seem small, but over a year, it results in over 1,000 advanced vocabulary words safely integrated into your linguistic system. Consistency will always beat intensity when it comes to language acquisition. The environmental sticky note system. Another playful, high-impact habit for visual learners is the environmental sticky note system. Our physical homes and workplaces are filled with hundreds of everyday objects that we interact with constantly, yet we often do not know their specific nuanced names in English. Spend an afternoon walking through your living space with a pack of sticky notes and a pen. Label the objects around you, but move beyond basic labels like door or window. Challenge yourself to use more specific, detailed vocabulary. Label the utensils in your kitchen, the apparel hanging in your closet, the cluttered shelf in your office, or the radiant lamp next to your bed. Leave these sticky notes attached to the objects for an entire week. Every single time you walk past the lamp, your eyes will subconsciously process the word radiant. Every time you open your closet, your brain will read the word apparel. This effortless, passive visual exposure utilizes the psychological concept of priming, embedding the vocabulary deeply into your visual memory without requiring you to sit down for a formal study session. The evening word harvest reflection. The final daily habit to solidify your long-term retention is the evening word harvest reflection. As you lie in bed at the end of a long, busy day, take just 2 minutes to conduct a rapid mental audit of your linguistic growth. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what were the 3 new English words I discovered today? Can I remember the context sentences they were wrapped in? Can I quickly create a brand new sentence using at least one of them right now? This simple evening ritual provides a vital psychological closing loop for your brain. It tells your subconscious mind that these specific words are highly important for your daily life, prompting your brain to prioritize them for memory consolidation during your deep sleep cycles. It transforms your sleep into an active tool for vocabulary storage, ensuring that you wake up the next morning with a sharper mind and a more expansive, confident grasp of the English language. The ultimate reward of an articulate life. As we bring this comprehensive guide to its conclusion, let us step back and appreciate the magnificent transformation that awaits you on the other side of this journey. Building a strong, precise English vocabulary is undoubtedly a path that demands steady effort, daily consistency, and a deep sense of personal curiosity. It is a commitment to continuous growth, requiring you to step away from basic comfort and explore the rich, vibrant landscapes of human expression. However, the ultimate rewards of this journey are absolutely boundless. When you master the words of a language, you unlock the doors to any room you choose to enter. You gain the power to articulate your professional value with absolute authority during critical interviews and board meetings. You gain the ability to navigate complex academic texts and high-level literature with complete ease. Most importantly, you gain the precious capacity to share your true self, your unique humor, your deep wisdom, and your authentic stories with people from every corner of the globe without any barriers holding you back. Embrace the beautiful process of learning. Treat every unfamiliar word not as an intimidating obstacle or a reminder of what you do not know, but as a wonderful, hidden gift waiting to be unwrapped. Trust in the organic capability of your mind to adapt, connect, and expand. With every context sentence you write, every spaced repetition cycle you complete, and every daily habit you cultivate, you are building an extraordinary articulate voice that is undeniably, beautifully your own. Speak with pride, learn with joy, and let your words change your world.